Welcome back, everybody. It is time for our Stage 4, Week 4 first part predictions. So, we are getting down to it. There's only 2 weekends left. We got this weekend, and then we got the uh, Los Angeles Valiant Homestead, aka Rivalry Week. So, that will be pretty awesome. We only have, since we're getting towards the end of the stage and the weeks are a bit shorter at the end, as we know, we only have 3 matches today and tomorrow. So this will be a little bit of a shorter video, which is just fine. We also have, we're going to take a quick look at the standings. It is becoming, in week 3, the playoffs solidified quite a bit. We had some more teams eliminated. This is going into last week. Washington Justice and Florida Mayhem were the only teams that are eliminated. Now joining them are Toronto Defiant and the Houston Outlaws. Boston Uprising and Paris Eternal have not been eliminated yet, but they may as well be. Boston would essentially have to win all 4 of their last matches, sweep them all, and then hope that Chengdu loses their last 2 or Atlanta loses their last 4, etc., etc., and that Valiant don't get to 13 or Dallas don't get to 13. So and they've looked absolutely horrible for the last 2 stages. So they're eliminated essentially, just not officially yet. Same thing with Paris; they would have to win their last 2 and then hope to God for a lot of crazy things to happen. They would need Valiant to lose out. They would need Chengdu to lose out. And the map differentials would have to be pretty rough as well. So they're essentially out as well. Dallas is in a little bit better shape than those two because they're only at 15 losses. So if they win out, they could still make it. The map differential is going to be tough. They would need the Valiant to lose at least 2 of their. They would need Valiant to lose 2 matches because if you look at the map differentials, they're not going to pass Valiant in map differential. But if Valiant finish at like 12 and 16 and Dallas can get to 13 and 15, then they would jump over them, and then of course they would need Chengdu to lose both of their last 2 as well, or again Atlanta to lose their last 4. So yeah, for Paris and Boston, it's just a matter of time before they're eliminated. Dallas, it's very likely that they'll be eliminated. They would need to win out to even have a chance. And as we know, they've lost 10 of their last 11 matches, so they are in a ton of trouble as well. Valiant, as long as they win, they're okay. If you look at the map differentials, as long as they're just trying to tie Chengdu. If they can tie Chengdu in terms of record, they should win the tiebreaker unless they win all their matches 3-2 and Chengdu loses all theirs 3-2 and wins the ones they win 4-0. But the biggest challenge for Valiant is just going to be winning their matches because they have one against the Shock, they have one against the Gladiators. So those are not going to be easy matches at all. So, yeah, that's a kind of a picture of the teams trying to make it into the play-in. In terms of the top 6, it's still Gladiators, Spark, and Spitfire. Pretty much for Gladiators and Spitfire, Gladiators just need to win one of their last 2 matches to lock themselves in. Spitfire, if they win their last match, they're good. They're in the top. They're in the top 6. The Spark, if they win one of their last 3, they're in pretty good shape. If they win 2 of their last 3, then they are clinched. And if they win all 3 of their last 3, then they could jump to number 4. Even if they go 2-1, obviously if Gladiators lose both of theirs, then they could jump up to 4th place. So for all these teams, they just got to take care of business, and they're going to be locked in. Seoul Dynasty, they're sitting at 14 and 12. As you can see, they still have that good map differential. So if they win their last 2 and see Spitfire or Hunjo go down, or even Gladiators if they lose a bunch of their last couple, then they could find themselves jumping into that 5 or 6 spot. Similar with Shanghai, but they have to win their last 3, and their map differential is a lot worse than everybody in here, so they're in a bit of trouble. A little sleeper pick is Atlanta. They're only at 12 wins, but they're also only at 12 losses, so they could win their last 4 and get to that 16. And then you see them at +8 if they win their last 4. That's going to be, +12 at absolute worst if they win 3-2 or 2-1 every match. They're going to be at least +12. So with a loss from a couple of these guys, and if Atlanta wins out, they could jump into that top 6, which is crazy. I don't think that probably won't happen, but it's a possibility. So Should be exciting for these teams coming down to it at the end. Also, side note: Vancouver and New York have clinched their spots in the divisions, so they will be the 1 and 2 seeds in that order. New York cannot pass Vancouver at this point. So yeah, 1 and 2 seeds are set. San Francisco has locked in the 3 spots, so we know those. But now we need to determine the other ones. So let's get to the predictions. Starting out, we got a match that does not matter for playoffs, but of course it matters for the players' careers, for the team's general directions in which they're going. So every match is important for the players. At least that's what they should be thinking, because it really is. Um, so, Uprising, Mayhem. So, Mayhem have been playing a lot better this stage. They've already won twice, and they had 2 wins the whole entire season coming into this stage. So, it's been a bounce back for sure from them. Other than that, Boston, we've seen them in complete free fall. I believe towards the end of stage 2, they got to 7-5. I want to say, like, before stage 2 was over. And since then, they've lost 11 of their last 12 matches. So I like Florida here. They've been playing better this whole stage than Boston has. Even in stage 3, honestly, but they're better suited for this meta. Boston doesn't seem to know what they're really doing. They're playing Persia a lot, who it just looks like a weak flex support player. Aim God is a lot better, so maybe they're trying to get bidding up for one of those guys. But it's been pretty baffling to see what's happened to Boston, because they were like right around the 8-9 spot for the first 2 stages. They were right there. They made a stage playoff. They upset teams like Gladiators and a couple other pretty good teams. So it's been kind of sad to see them really go down the drain here, but it happens. I think they're gonna have to blow up most of the team. I think you could probably bring back fusions. I saw some good stuff from Color Hex. Blaze's had some moments, but he hasn't been super consistent. RCK is okay, but just okay in my eyes. So they got some things to worry about for next season for sure. Florida, I really think they're starting to get the baseline for next season. I think that you can carry, if they finish this stage strong, I would carry most of the roster in. Like a couple players like Swan and Zephyr and some of those guys that played and didn't work out. You can cut ties with them and then pick up a couple of new people to kind of bring in the competition with this lineup here. But there is good stuff here. Hagopian is a very good support player. Fate is super consistent. Gargoyle has been great since they brought him in on the flex tank. The off tank. Saya player continues to have a really high ceiling. BQB, I feel like, has been much improved this stage. So there is something there for Florida. I think for the first time, really ever, Florida fans can have some real hope that there's actually a cohesive team there. So that being said, I'm going to take Florida in this one, winning it 3-1. I think Boston will snag one map in here. And this is an important match. We got Dallas Fuel taking on Spark. Like I said, Dallas, they gotta win out. It's the last chance. This is really it. To think they were a team that was 9-5, it's really crazy. And then Spark, this is obviously important for them too. If they lose this match, that knocks them down to 15-11, and then they have to play the Gladiators. And I don't remember the last one, but that would, they lose this one and then they lose to Gladiators, all of a sudden there's a decent chance you could fall out of the top 6, and of course they do not want that. I think this one will be an interesting one though. You got Lijiang Tower, you got Hanamura, Blizzard World, and then Junkertown. So I went back and forth with this one when I was looking the games over. I am going to go with the Spark. I'm going to go with them in 5. Dallas, the last couple times I've seen them on Lijiang, they looked pretty good. Their May Reaper looked pretty solid, at least in the start of the Gladiator match. They definitely had the better of them. Then Gladiators kind of turned it on and smoked them in the second half. But I still think Hanzhou, while they've been improved since last week, last week was a definite step up from the first couple weeks of this stage, I still don't think Hanzhou has it completely figured out. I still think they're a very vulnerable team, even though like I said, there were signs of really good stuff from them, but I don't don't really trust their DPS line a ton right now. Um, they had some issues with one of their players, one of their DPS players, Crystal, who's still not even, who's back in China, still, I believe. So they've had a little bit of issues there. Bozzy hasn't played like at all. I'm not super confident about their ability to flex onto the snipers, so I think Junkertown might be a little bit of an issue for them. Godsby hasn't impressed me too much on the Widow. So I think Dallas keeps this one close. I think they give it a good run, but they just don't quite have. I just don't trust their team enough right now. I think that the Spark are still playing a bit better than them, and in the end, they'll clutch it out in map 5 to take the 3-2. And then it's the Seoul Dynasty taking on the Shanghai Dragons. So this is a very important match. Whichever of these teams loses, they will be statistically eliminated from getting into the top 6. They will be in that play-in tournament. So it's a crucial one to win, especially for Seoul because they are in better shape in terms of their overall record and map differential. So this is kind of a must-win for them. They lost a heartbreaker against the Charge the other day in reverse sweep fashion, but I'm going to go with Seoul here. I still don't fully trust Shanghai in this meta. I don't think their tanks have meshed yet with Gamsu and Envy. I think that their lack of flexibility on DPS has really started to come back and bite them. And they've just kind of taken some hits. They've been very vulnerable this stage after really finding their groove in stage 3. So I'm going to take Seoul here. I think all the maps are pretty close, but Seoul's going to edge it out 3-1. I think it's 2-1 going into map 4, and Seoul takes a close one under 66 to stay alive in that top 6 hunt. Moving on to Friday, we have a great set of matches on Friday. Honestly, besides, I think a lot of people, unless you're a fan of one of the teams, Boston and Florida doesn't really interest you, and I understand that. But other than that, a lot of these matchups are really interesting. They matter in terms of positioning, at least for one of the teams, and I think we should have some really good close ones, like this one. Atlanta and Justice, two teams that had terrible first halves of the season. Well, okay, for Atlanta, you had a great stage 1, or at least a good stage 1. You made the playoffs. Season 2 was pretty disastrous. The beginning of stage 3 was disastrous. You lost your first 4, I think, 4 or 5. So they were at 7-12, but now they got a ton of their hard opponents out of the way. They're still playing well as a team. I feel like they've really gelled together. They've won their last 5 matchups, but they were against a lot of their matchups were some weaker competition. So they should have a good matchup here, Washington. I'm still not buying the Washington hype. I think they're a top 10 team in this meta, definitely. I don't think they're number 2, as some people are putting them. I don't even think they're top 5. I think Atlanta is a little bit better, and we'll see that. Washington, when they beat Vancouver, Corey had, I would say, the single biggest carry I've ever seen in an Overwatch League match. Like, in Overwatch of all time, actually. There were a couple games last year where Striker was carrying super, super hard for Boston, but they were also getting nice like they were having Aim God / Neko contribute in a big way. They had Note playing very well. They had Gamsu, who is a very good player as well. And Striker was just always putting them over the top in these map 5s. But here, Corey just single-handedly just annihilated the entire Vancouver team with Hanzo. It was absolutely ridiculous. If you've watched the match, you would know what I mean. Man, it was disgusting to see. But, I don't trust that to happen that often. And we saw them struggle against the Outlaws. So, I think Atlanta is a more well-rounded team. Baby Bay and Lear have been solid. Erster's been amazing. I still really like their tank line, and their support line continues to be solid. Dogman is probably one of the most improved people of the entire league. Like over the from stage 1 to now, he's got to be one of the most improved players. For sure. He's now very solid, and Masa continues to be a very good, underrated main support player. So it should be a good match. It'll be I see a bit of back and forth, but Washington struggles to attack on certain points, and their inconsistency overall, and I don't like their tank line as much as Atlanta. So I'm going to go with Atlanta taking this one 3-1. Then we got Chengdu versus San Francisco. So these teams have always had close matchups. I remember one where San Francisco won 3-2, but it was really touch and go in there. Chengdu has given a lot of issues to some of these top tier teams. Um, in this case, though, now that the 2-2-2 is here, I don't think Chengdu can really. The casters would always call it the Clown Fiesta. They're like, you can't opt into the Clown Fiesta against Chengdu because they'll make you pay for it. I don't think Chengdu can do that as much in this meta. While they are a very solid team in this meta, they are often a team that excels in chaos, like before. But I think that in this meta, it's a lot harder to create chaos, especially against Shock. Shock is the best, most disciplined team in this meta by far. I think Rascal's the best Mei in the league. Smurf really has a good grasp of what to do on the Orisa. Choyobin is fine on the Diva in this meta and can carry on Roadhog at times. Like I've said before, Architect has felt like a little bit of a weak spot for me, but he's still been good. Moth has had some questionable plays on Batiste, but his Lucio continues to be very good, and I think he'll just improve on the Batiste as we go along. So, San Francisco, in my eyes, and a lot of other people's eyes, they're the best team in the league right now. And while Chengdu might give them some issues, I think they might snag that first map off them because San Francisco has very struggled pretty mightily on controlled maps. I think that San Francisco kind of rolls it over and takes the last three maps pretty easily and takes the series 3-1. And the final match of Friday, we got LA Gladiators taking on the Hangzhou Spark. So this is an important match. Like I said, if Hangzhou wins against Fuel, both of these teams will be 16-10. They will be vying for that fourth spot. A thing to note is the fourth and the fifth spots, I think, are extremely important to lock down. Because if you remember, when we go into playoffs, it is double elimination. So if you lose your first matchup, you will get knocked down to the loser's bracket, but you'll still have a chance. It won't be just single elimination, you're done. However, remember, we'll have 8 teams, the top 6, and then the 2 from the play-ins. So it's the same thing as like the stage playoffs. 1 will play against 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, 4, and 5. Guess who's the 3 seed? The Shock. The Shock are guaranteed the 3 seed. So whether you have the 4, the 5, or the 6, you do not want the 6th. You do not want to play San Francisco right away. So this is a very important matchup for both teams, especially for Hangzhou if they lose to Dallas. I think they'll win. Like I said, I predicted it, but I don't think that's a gimme by any means. So this is, like I said, this is do or die time for these teams. Yes, it's true that there's a very good chance if one of these teams end up as 4, then Spitfire could end up as 5, and you don't really want to play the Spitfire in the playoffs either. But at this point, I'm taking the Spitfire over. Yeah, I'm taking the Spitfire over the Shock. I would much rather play against Spitfire. They don't look nearly as dominant in this meta. And while they might turn it on in the playoffs, I don't know. What I do know is Shock is kind of dominating everybody right now. Gladiators did give them a good fight a couple weeks ago, but Shock did win out in the end. So I'm not trying to see them in the first round of the playoffs. So I think both these teams will have that in mind. I think Gladiators are a better team in this meta. I think they've been a better team pretty much the whole season. If you look at map differential. So I have faith in the Gladiators here. I have seen a lot of things that are troubling me in terms of decays, blizzards, them just coordinating their ults in general. I would kind of like to see a little hydration just to see if it's better. I don't know, maybe he just hasn't been playing well in scrims or something else is up, but I would just maybe like to see a little bit of variation because I'm not feeling supremely confident in them right now. But like I said, the Spark have not been great this stage at all. Gladiators have shown signs of greatness. Their reverse sweep against Dallas was nice. They took the last 3 maps pretty dominantly. Going toe-to-toe with San Francisco impressed me. So I think that they get the job done here. I think it's a 3-1. Looking at the map pools, it is danger for Gladiators if they're down and they're going to Route 66. But I like them on Busan, I like them on Temple, and Blizzard World's been pretty decent as well. So I like the Gladiators wrapping this one up 3-1. So those are the predictions for today and tomorrow of the Overwatch League. We are getting down to the nitty gritty. Some of the teams only have 1 match left, so it's crazy. If your teams have been eliminated, F's in the chat. If they have not been, good luck to them. And I hope you guys watched the video. Thank you very much for tuning in. And after you guys have a lovely couple of days, I hope, I'll see you in the next one.